This is the final episode for this round, and we'll probably wait until there's a seismic shift in the company to do this again, because it looks like there's still a pretty irregular schedule moving forward, but stick around to the end to see what other content is coming soon. So let's move to Decourage.
Let's.
I mean, I'm sort of surprised. I can't say really surprised that they've lasted this long through Yuki's entire injury, but just that they've kept them in a holding pattern and kept them relevant for long enough without him, because they clearly wanted a unit to revolve around him. And just the dynamic between him and Daya, of course, but I think mostly just building him to be the ace. And I think that is probably what the purpose of it is, perpetuating it. I don't know why they don't grow it, because, you know, it seems like they just want to keep it a three-man max unit, because even when they were four, that was still short-lived. I could see Ryoya moving on at some point, and maybe they just want to keep Yuki and Daya as that sort of like Kineska type of team where they keep them together throughout their careers.
It feels like that is it, really. They feel so intertwined in such a unique way that even if they're not in the same unit, it's a little bit soulmatey. Like, they're always going to be together in some way.
They really hit on that with they are doing the classic generational rival thing where they started as, you know, enemies. They did not the exact same sequence of events, but the same sort of pattern that Dragon Kid and Kness, or Darkness Dragon, started as. And then it has kind of evolved to, you know, counter to that, they both unmasked, and they are the main focus even with Ryoya on board, which, you know, he is certainly welcome to ride this train, but it's right in the name, it's not about him. It's about those two. That is something where I think they can break up at any point, really, and then still team in the future, and they will still call it Decourage.
Yeah, exactly.
Doubt they're going to change their names at any point. But
no, could you imagine?
Unless Yuki goes back to Daya Inferno, which I don't think he's going to.
No, if that was going to happen, it would have happened when everyone said it was about to happen this year, which it was never going to happen. Suck it. Everyone was so, like, I was firm in my convictions.
No, I thought that there was a chance that he could have been insisting he was not, and then he turned out to be anyway, but that would not have been him going back to Daya Inferno, because
it would have been something else.
You're not going to cover him up again entirely.
No, bad idea.
Even though, I mean, it is very much a heel thing to cover up so that the Fujoshis can't fawn over you. But
that's not how it works.
But I don't think you'd go back under a mask.
No. I don't think it would serve much of a purpose, dramatically or otherwise.
No, and I think we're going to see all three of these guys as just pure white meat baby faces for a while, and each of them has a streak in them.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't see that being overwhelming. I think they're too popular with the fans individually, and I think the company knows that. It's possible we might get an amicable split at some point, but I don't think it's going to be because of a turn. That's just my gut feeling.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's potential, because the thing about people being that popular, it is a gamble, but it can be a very, very effective betrayal. But you have to be sure that it's going to be worth it on the other side of that. And I mean, it could be, but I don't think Dragongate are in the position where they'd need to do a big, astounding heel turn betrayal, because we've had a few. Obviously, we've had a few turns, significant enough ones recently. They're too useful as faces.
Yeah, just looking back, the one that I get the most comments from people about, the Jason turn, is still, like, that still hurts people.
Yeah, because that was genuinely out of nowhere, in a way that it was out of nowhere in the sense that people weren't even thinking about it as an option, but it still makes sense.
It was set up with the tension between them, but I think people didn't expect it to happen when and how it happened, and they didn't expect the full character evolution from Jason either.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think like a turn like that for one of D-Courage would be absolutely heartbreaking, but I don't really see... It's not that I can't picture it, because this company is very good at surprising you with how cool they can make someone look when they turn heel.
Yeah.
When you weren't expecting it before. Like, I mean, look at Homare, and of course Jason, but I'm thinking of Homare in particular, where he was set up to be this like plucky young baby face who everyone loved, and then suddenly he's like the emo kid with his hair in his face and acting like a total dick to everybody.
Yeah.
And being completely shun-pilled.
Aren't we all?
Yes, of course. I mean, I can understand the appeal. D-Courage, I think, could, like, you know, we've talked about it to the point where it's practically a meme at this point, where it's, like you said, you know, whenever we say, like, oh, this guy could go here and here, we bring up D-Courage.
D-Courage.
But I think that's just because, you know, they're always the smallest unit, and we want to see those bigger numbers. But maybe they don't need it?
I think I might be a little bit of an outlier here, because I actually don't want anyone to join D-Courage. It's not because I don't think it would work with anyone who could potentially come in. It is just that I am a big D-Courage Oshi, and I love all three of them so much that I'm like, you'd upset the balance. Like, the feng shui would be out. And I don't know, it might be just me being a bit weird about it, but I feel like D-Courage is kind of just so perfect with the three of them.
They do gel very well, and they have a very similar kind of, I guess, ethos is what is the way I want to put it, where they do have a bit of an edge to them, but they're just kind of like this trio of happy, handsome boys.
Yeah.
And they don't need to be much else. So, like, you put a guy like Monte in there, and I don't know if he'll fit. Like, the only other guy that I can think of that... Well, maybe there's a couple. But the one that I think the most would maybe fit that same sort of, like, pure baby face with an edge is UT.
Yeah.
Like, if Natural Vibes ever splits up, I could see him going to D-Courage. You could argue Jackie, but that would be a lateral move, I think. That wouldn't be a step up for him. Like, nobody from another babyface unit, I don't think, unless they were to break up, I don't think would necessarily be taking a step higher by joining D-Courage. I think it would just be moving somewhere else. It would be shuffling for the sake of shuffling.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, with the units working so uniquely as they do in Dragongate, I think we can fall in love a little bit with the idea of, as much as I go shuffle unit, I think we do end up sort of a little bit enamored with the idea of people moving around all the time and things changing without really reconciling that with the actual functionality of that. So I think if D-Courage's function changes, or if someone else's function changes to join D-Courage, or to, like, become, you know, of the same ethos, then that is a move that makes sense. But I don't think anyone has that particular ethos right now. Otherwise, I feel like it would have been Monte and it would have happened by now.
Yeah, and I did mention in our previous session, I could potentially see them merging with whatever Saipatra is.
Yeah.
If something happened to D-Courage, like if they were forced to disband, I could kind of see that being where they, at least 2 out of the 3 end up.
I think whatever happens, unsurprisingly, we're going to have a lot of story happening with Yuki, Daya, and Shun, because they have so much history.
Right. If we're talking about how a unit dies, I don't think this is a breakup. I think this is being forced to disband.
Probably.
At that point, I think you have Yuki and Daya have to go their separate ways, not because they want to. Like, that is its own heartbreak. It's a different type of heartbreak, but it's that kind of same level as when, like, somebody turns heel. It's like you don't see, like, good relationships end most of the time, But I know, like, plenty of people where they realized that, like, we're not going to get anything done if we stay together, or we're toxic together. That is a different type of sadness than you break up because you're, like, mean to each other or someone gets dumped,
Yeah.
That's a really interesting dynamic because, like, for as much as I talk about how, like, Jason's turn was heartbreaking, some of the biggest, like, sad moments in the company were when Monster Express or Jimmy's were forced to disband.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this when I was talking about Genki, but I was watching the final Jimmy's match when I was working on my disbanded video for them. And when Genki had to do his final speech before the last Jimmy's train, he broke down crying, and I can't deal with seeing Genki being sad.
Real.
I think Daya and Yuki just have this dynamic where they're going to be together unless they're forced not to be.
Yeah.
And Ryoya, like, he doesn't feel like a third wheel because he strengthened himself as a role in the unit, and Kikta obviously too, in Yuki's absence. So
yeah, and obviously now that he's got the Brave Gate, that's a more tangible sense of he's proven himself.
Right, and we are also in a situation where we have a 3-man unit and all of them are current champions as of this recording.
Yes.
So as much as the Triangle Gate is the unit supremacy belt, also an extremely strong statement for them.
It's interesting because obviously when you talk about Yuki especially, and the trajectory he's had since he came back from injury, being about, it's going to sound so corny, but being about finding his courage again. I go back to this thing about identity in Dragongate a lot. And I think it comes up in wrestling a lot, but in Dragongate especially, because the characters that they have are so multi-layered, just because of the nature of the company. You can't build characters like this in a lot of the wrestling that I go to because it's independent. So you don't have a standing roster. You have a lot of regulars, but you don't have, a roster in the same way.
Yeah, you can't plan for long term on indies a lot of the time. There's injuries and schedule conflicts and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So what we have with Yuki is much about like finding himself again, about finding who he was before. And I think a lot of that as well happened relatively quickly. Like, he didn't fail at doing that because he had Daya and Tanaka.
Right, and I do think it's really interesting that when they announced that he was coming back, people were just kind of thinking he was going to be slotted back in and go straight for Dreamgate contention again.
Yeah.
And the fact that they actually had him on a losing streak and needing to find his way again, that was really interesting because they were setting up Kikta's heel turn and Yuki wanting to replace him in Reta Reyes, and then it was like the whole Daya Inferno thing with Shun. There was a lot going on with him, but it wasn't that regaining his position and going straight back into Dreamgate contention. He had to earn that and he had to work for it, and I really appreciate that they didn't just say like, oh well, you're Reiwa 6, you come back, pick up right where you left off.
Yeah, it's also like it's also the most compassionate way of going about it as well, because with an injury like that, with any long-term injury, some people can just get right back to it, but you cannot rely on that. And I don't think it's a good idea to just immediately be like, okay, have your 40-minute main event banger again now that you're back, because these are people's bodies and they are unpredictable, especially your eyes. Wow.
Yeah.
It was a nice way of keeping Yuki's character present and engaged whilst also giving him time to get back into the swing of things without it feeling like it was stalling.
Yeah. Just on the note of his injury, I remember when we did the first round of this, he was still out when we recorded, and he was announced back when I was editing.
Yep.
So I actually had to put in like a little text announcement while we were talking about it on screen that he was announced back in March. Hearing the circumstances of what he went through during that time, just it's another one of those things where, like we were talking about Ryofuda, where so many people would have quit, and there were times when I'm sure he was on the verge of retiring because they weren't sure if he would fully recover. But his situation sounded so miserable. It was like he couldn't work out, he couldn't go out, any kind of exertion could potentially re-injure the eye or detach it. Like, he had the surgery, it took a long time to recover, and he just had to sit at home and do nothing the whole time. And that's just, I remember the pandemic that I was miserable, but like I could still be relatively active, so it would be like that plus not being able to do anything. And then finally he was able to start working out again, and like he had to relearn how to bump. He had to do that differently. He has to do a lot of his stuff differently. And now, like, knowing that really colors the context of this whole arc where he's getting himself back, because that parallels his actual real experience.
Yeah, and that truth to it, that authenticity, is one of those things that make, in a lot of ways, that make wrestling really special, because how obviously it absolutely, like you said, it sounded miserable, and I would never want anyone to go through that, but the fact that you get to see the real person in the character and in the story, obviously it makes him more of a hero. Incredibly fertile ground for the storyline to launch a new ace on it.
Yeah, I mean, if he's gonna get back into that position eventually, then nobody can ever claim that he didn't earn it.
Exactly. It's not like, oh, you've just been chosen by the company and everyone's annoyed by you, which is a thing that happens in idol music a lot. It's like they just chose
and
the center.
wrestling promotions.
Yeah, like I say, it's authentic. It's a very sort of honest kind of, ironically for wrestling, it's a very sort of honest way of forming that kind of character.
I will say, like, even back then, like, yeah, I was ready for him to just come back and kind of, be the ace that I knew he could be, but I'm glad that they didn't go in that direction. And I know that a lot of people were kind of disappointed at first. I think it's this whole thing where people don't really know where kayfabe is a lot of the time, where they were kind of like, oh, he's lost a step, he's cooked, he's, he can't ever, like, achieve, what he was doing before. And it's like, he's working.
It's so funny because people really do think that they're so smart about the business, and so often they just get really, really frustrated by something that's obviously a story. I don't understand it, but it's forever going to be my frustration with it.
Well, there's a lot to be said about how kind of like the new kayfabe is working the fans with things that seem like they're a lot more real. Like, I'm still not entirely clear on how much of Shun's injury leading up to Kobe World was worked, because he was taken off of shows and they got him out of the ring really fast and disappeared to the back, and they didn't focus on him at all. I think that was something where it was just scary, but they decided to lean into it.
Yeah, which I think probably happens a lot more than we realize.
Yeah, but I think that was just sort of a convenient way of both protecting Shun in the lead up to it, and then of course he shows up in New Japan.
As one is wont to do.
But then that also dovetailed into the I'll retire if I lose thing, because then like people were absolutely convinced that he was going to New Japan.
They were so angry about it, and I was like, come on. Girl.
I was so not buying it.
No.
I thought at worst he was gonna, maybe take a break for a while and then show up somewhere else for a while and then come back.
Yeah. Or it was gonna be shenanigans.
Yeah. That's almost a parallel, or like a looking glass sort of mirror opposite of what Yuki was doing, with him bringing his like real injury into his not so much redemption story, because he there was nothing to redeem. They really put a lot of that real life finding his way again and finding his path and regaining his fire and his confidence into his early months of returning. And it's funny how many people bought it.
Yeah.
There's always like, there's work and there's shoot, and then there's like the worked shoot stuff that like WCW was doing in the late 90s, where they were like,
he refused to follow the script,
acknowledging that kayfabe exists, the fourth wall break and the wink and nod. I've coined a phrase over the past little while, is that there's the opposite of that, which is kind of the shooted work.
That's horrible mouthfeel.
I know, it's for lack of a better term, entirely, but it's the idea of taking something from your real life and making kayfabe out of it. And this company's really good at doing that.
Yeah.
And not everybody is.
And you would think it would be easier, but apparently not.
I would think that would be what the new kayfabe is a lot of the time. And I think a lot of people try to do that, but it still seems manufactured in a lot of ways, because a lot of it's like, oh, so-and-so's contract is expiring. Is he going to go to this place or not? And then it's like, no, he's not.
I think the issue with that is that it's boring.
Yeah.
That's boring. That's literally, okay, sure, if you're a very, very sports-minded kind of person, but for the most part, that does not play to the strength of what wrestling actually is. It is not interesting if someone's contract is up, because there's two options. They're going to re-sign or they're going to leave. That's it.
Yeah, especially nowadays, because there are so many options. Like, if you're in North American wrestling, if you're in one of the big two promotions and your contract expires, you can either go to the other one, you can go to another country and make it in that scene, which plenty of people do, or you can make an extremely good living on the indies right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do. I think it was actually Matt Cardona who was saying that he makes more money on the indies than he was in WWE.
Yeah. Because your options there are, from a story perspective, your character stays or your character is never heard from again. And that's it. It's just not interesting.
Yeah, and it's to generate like a brief period of headlines, and it's basically the kayfabe equivalent of clickbait.
Yeah, it's the same thing every time, though.
And you know that a lot of these companies and a lot of these wrestlers will tease that, and then nothing will happen. And a lot of that actually comes from the journalism side, where they'll say, we noticed this person's contract is up. Are they going to jump somewhere else? And then you know, it turns out they signed months ago.
Yeah.
Just to bring this back to talking about Yuki Yoshioka, I mean, there was certainly some doubt whether he could come back, but I think once he got back, I don't really know how you could fully believe that he wasn't going to be okay in the company.
Yeah, even if you thought that towards the beginning and you were watching him, if you were buying into the losses maybe a little bit too much, surely by the time the match with Tanahashi came around, you would think, okay, we're getting Yuki back, you know?
Well, that's the thing, because people were ignoring clear signs of him getting it back, that like the fact that they were telling a story.
Yeah.
Because he started regaining his confidence. He started doing that, Jay calls it zombie Yuki, I call it Terminator mode.
Terminator mode, yeah.
Where nothing can touch him. Like, he showed signs of that. He was gradually regaining his steps, and they had that whole arc with him and Kikta and Daya getting involved. And like, okay, they're clearly telling a story here. They clearly want a long-term arc with him. So, and then like when they announced Tanahashi, it was kind of like, well, is he gonna beat him and then get the high fly flow from him? And it didn't matter whether he won or lost. It was, you know, Tanahashi wasn't the point. Like, gave it to him anyway. I think you could do that without Tanahashi, but I love that they were able to pull that off.
I think that's one of those things that's meaningful on a grander scale than just the one story and the one promotion, but isn't overwhelmingly so.
Well, I do think it is a pretty huge thing that Hiroshi Tanahashi bequeathed his finishing move name to somebody not in New Japan.
No, exactly. I saw some tweets from people that were less than happy about that, and it was like, okay, have some respect for people in promotions that aren't the thing you watch, please.
And they had that connection through Gifu and the high school. They played on the same baseball team, you know, years apart. There is a lot of, I guess, veneration for your hometown. You know, that they always do homecoming shows, and there's always those kinds of connections. It was just like a really important part of his story. Either way, it was going to be like, he's going to be using the frog splash anyway, but now he does that setup for it.
Yeah.
He does the same setup as Tanahashi does, where like he does the jump over the ropes, he does the same posing and posturing to get into position, and he's really leaning into it. The one thing I want to see with him now is, after Tanahashi had used it for years and kind of saw that it was not being as effective. He started spamming it, basically, where he'd do like 3 in a row. He also does the standing variation, where his opponent is standing and he hits him with like a frog splash crossbody. So I'd like to see Yuki add that, but also he keeps adding more to his repertoire. He added the, it's called the nail gun, like fisherman's driver kind of thing that he does. And he's brought back the battle hook, which I always like seeing. They have been adding stuff to him the whole time, and it feels like a natural progression. And then, you know, finally getting not just the move name, but the speech from Tanahashi of like, be the ace I know you can be.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this is from the ace. This is from Go Ace. Like, I don't know what else you could, there's nothing else that they could be doing. It's too obvious. It's almost so obvious I don't trust it, but you know, that's just me and my writer brain, I think.
The thing is, it doesn't feel to me like it's on the nose.
No, I don't.
Even though
think
though it is extremely obvious.
Yeah, there's been just enough push and pull, and obviously with his absence for so long, that it doesn't feel overbearing. If it were overbearing, we would have a problem. But I don't think that's the case. I think there's this quiet confidence that, yeah, this is Yuki's role. This is kind of what he's destined for. It's just about the steps that we take to get there.
Yeah, and it's justified, the progress of it. I want to segue into talking about Daya for a bit, too, because his role in that was really interesting, too, where Yuki came back and Daya was... You know, at first he was just kind of like, oh, happy to have you back, and we're teaming again as, you know, the original D-Courage team. But then once Kikta started questioning the Daya Inferno appearances, Daya was like... not just saying like, no, we need to trust Yuki, but also like, you colossal dumbass, how could it be him?
He came down hard on which side he was falling on.
That was actually one of the reasons why I thought it might have been Yuki, because he was leaning so hard into it that it would have been just so heartbreaking for Daya. But yeah, Daya was like actually mean about it. He was like completely insulting Kikuta's intelligence and just being like, no, you idiot, you like stupid asshole, how could you think that? Which is like, it's very boyfriend coded, isn't it?
It's very boyfriend coded. We knew this. The thing about Daya as well, through his Bravegate run, is that you saw him have a little bit of a mean streak. It wasn't overwhelming, but there was that sort of... there was a little bit of a meanness to him. He was confident, but he was needling people.
There was a cockiness to him.
Yeah, and to see that resonate through his very impassioned defense of Yuki's honor. Also, you know, it felt like we got a slightly deeper Daya than we'd seen for a while, which I think I remember saying that Daya is very, very gifted with drama, but we don't get to see it all that often, because obviously we saw it through Masquerade leading into the formation of D-Courage. It's like the thing that I said about Kikita as well. Of course, I immediately basically preempted all of the drama kicking off with all of them. You know, I'm just psychic like that, I suppose.
It's not so much, even to me anyway, that he was being mean about it. He was just being passionate about it.
Yeah.
He believed with his whole heart that Yuki was innocent, and the one story beat between the two of them that I really still wish they fleshed out was when they first unmasked and then came back as D-Courage. They just kind of said, we worked it out. I would have liked to see what that entailed.
They signed the prenup.
Yeah, because I think if we're talking about how implicitly he trusts Yuki, what was the communication like when...
that wasn't the case.
When he was on the shelf.
Yeah.
And Daya was... you know, I guess they kind of had Kikta in the de facto leadership role when he had the Dreamgate the first time. But Daya was waving the D-Courage flag the whole time. So I think this means so much to him that it's not just about trusting Yoshioka, it's about trusting D-Courage as an entity.
Yeah, it's that sense of identity.
And believing in the unit.
It's so wrapped up in who they are as characters. It's literally their names.
And we hear about it and we see little bits and pieces of it on social media, but I don't think a lot of people really fully grasp when you're in a unit. Those are the people you train with, you hang out with, you tour with, you ride with. Like, unless they're on the tour bus, you don't see a lot of cross-pollination, so to speak. If you look at some of the, videos and pictures that people post on social media, you usually see them together with their teammates. Like, I follow Ben K's Instagram, and he's always posting stuff about, like, the other members of Love and Peace. And, that's who he's around all the time. This is kind of a long walk for me to just say that D-Courage, to me, feels most like the unit that actually exemplifies unity. And it's because of how strong their connection is. And so, yeah, of course, Daya trusts him, and of course Daya's not gonna flip the script on him and say, like, hey, I suspect you, even if it did turn out to be him. Kind of like the whole, like, mental gymnastics you do when you don't want to believe something is true. Even I think that's the kind of character that Dragon Daya is.
I think as well, it's interesting looking at it from a perspective of Daya is someone that has reason to distrust a lot of people.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about, people who have been affected by Shun.
Yep. So the fact that Yuki has become someone that he trusts so implicitly, I don't know. I like that. I like it.
It's also this kind of thing where there's a lot of sentiment in North American promotions in particular where pure babyfaces are not allowed to have friends for some reason.
Yeah, because everyone might be out to get them secretly.
That, or it's like you need to stand on your own, so that it's probably a merch thing, but, like, friends don't come to each other's rescue, and it is really nice to see two characters that are just inextricably linked and have that really powerful connection, where I struggle to think of any other pairing on this roster right now who has that.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's soulmates vibes, and not reading anything weird into it. They're just two people that fit.
Oh, they've kissed. No. No, I had to go there at least once.
Type A.3.
Right. No, I'm sure there's plenty of fan fiction about it, but but it's not the, like, when I say boyfriend coded, I don't mean it in a relationship. I just mean that they will defend each other in that way. Also, just talking aesthetically about Dragon Daya, he's really come into his own with a certain style over the past year.
The Y2K-esque beats.
Yeah. The, like, hot pink, kind of raver pants almost, where it's got all the straps all over him. He's got his own kind of vibe as far as his look goes, and I think it's interesting. Like, D-Courage doesn't really have unit colors except for their own individual colors.
Yeah, they have image colors, as it were.
Right. Turquoise and pink, but Yuki's the turquoise, Daya's the pink, and then Ryoya's kind of got, like, this, what's he got, like the white and gray tights, and then it's got accents of both.
Yeah, he's kind of the pastel boy.
He does have elements of both, but then, like, when Kikto was in the unit, he was doing a bright red thing, and there were no really uniform colors to it, which, interestingly enough, is also kind of Jimmy's coded, because each of them had their own individual color that represented them. I digress. I always go back to Jimmy's.
Yeah, it does seem to be a bit of a fixation for you, but, I don't think I can throw stones in this particular glass house.
Well, I did just finish a video about them, so they're on the mind.
Haunting the narrative.
I did kind of a deep dive because they were around for almost 6 years, so it's double the length of the other videos that I usually make about disbanded units.
A lot of content.
And also just going back through the cage matches for that video I'm making, where there was a lot of Jimmy's content in there too. But yeah, Tanaka does have elements of, he has both colors on his gear, but he's kind of done his own bit of style, like you were talking about, the the bedazzling, and he does I think he does his own, I don't think he makes his own gear, but he does the alterations on them.
Yes, he does, as far as I can tell.
Also sometimes shows up with the ends of his hair dyed.
Yeah, he's got a bit of the dip dye. It's like me at in university, but he pulls it off a lot better than I do. I had the ends bleached for a dip dye, and what I used to do, the two colors that I used to dye my hair were turquoise and bright pink.
You are proto-decourage.
It was meant to be. I actually had bright pink hair for at least 6 months. Tanaka.
Well, I mean, we're talking about a fashion icon here.
That is true. That is true. It did take him a while to figure out the hair.
Yeah, he was doing like the high ponytail for a while.
Yeah. Meh.
But also just the way he is cut. I mean, like,
Alarming.
the man has not seen a carbohydrate in months, I think.
And it's so funny considering how often he posts about the food that he's eating and the junk food that he's eating especially. And I'm there like, wow, that's... You know, why are you eating donuts? I hate you.
Who was it? It's like a champion swimmer or something like that. He was talking about how he eats like pepperoni pizzas like all the time, and he'll eat like a whole one, and the logic is once you get the furnace going, it'll burn anything.
Yeah.
Like Ryoya had this like long period where he was, I think, strictly dieting. And then once he got into ridiculous shape, it's just like you're training at an insane level and your body just processes whatever you put in it at that point.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I don't still hate him.
It's a bit scary at times too. It's like
a little bit.
It's like you don't look real.
Yeah.
I do laugh at that exchange we had though, where you posted the quote from Rocky Horror of like, I don't like men with too many muscles.
Yeah.
And I didn't make him for you.
It's so, it feels mean, but I don't like men with too many muscles. I think about it perhaps too often. It's very funny being into wrestling when aesthetically that does nothing for me. Mm-hmm. Perhaps this is too revealing for a podcast.
Well, I mean, I am, I would say, wildly attached to the the wrestling promotion that focuses on hunky young boys, and it's not even an attraction thing for me. It's just like, it's because they're on a completely other level than anywhere else.
Yeah.
And also have incredible storytelling.
Yes.
I'm the kind of person where if it was an attraction thing, you'd know. Everyone would know.
Well, that's fair.
Even now, like when I'm going back and looking at those survival cage matches, I'm like, Junction 3 to Mad Blanky era Yamato. Damn, that is a good looking man.
Pig. It's
Yeah.
pig.
And just speaking on like the shape that Tanaka is in, there's almost kind of like when Pac was around, that sort of like definition that defined, and it's a different kind of definition because Pac is obviously like all abs, but
All abs, one brain cell, and it's full of hate.
and wet.
Yeah, wet gremlin.
Tanaka, and that's not even, you know, speaking of his ring ability, his debut was 2 years ago this past
2
May,
years
I believe.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting that. And it's wild.
And it was, I remember saying like 9 or 10 months at the time, talking about just how he fits like a glove and how it already felt like he'd been around forever.
He's just kind of one of the platonic ideals of a Dragongate guy.
Like I've said that exact sentence about him. I think the Bravegate run he's on now, whoever beats him for that is going to get a lot of shine. And I think it's also going to serve the dual purpose of being a stepping stone to the Dreamgate, because Ryoya Tanaka is a future Dreamgate champion. There is no question in my mind.
Spicy. I wouldn't say that's a hot take, but I'd say it's a strong take. I don't necessarily disagree, but I also don't think I've been around long enough to actually make that assertion.
He is definitely on the smaller side now. Like I think he's billed at something ridiculous like 70 kilograms, but he is also the kind of guy who can easily bulk up. As we learned from Daya, being Bravegate weight doesn't preclude you from being a Dreamgate contender too.
Yeah.
Obviously, as Yamato has proven. I almost feel like he's a really good example of how maybe the Reiwa 6 jumped the gun a little bit with naming them, because if you were going to name the 6 today, I think Tanaka would be one of them.
Interesting.
Though I think you could almost name another big 6 at this point just because of how much talent has come out of the Dragongate Future program in the past few years.
Quick, someone die. We need to name a new era.
I think he's going to be quite a bit more prominent in wherever he lands after Decourage, whenever that dissolves.
Yeah, I think this is a Bravegate run, like I say, is kind of a solidifying. He's been here 2 years. It feels like much longer. This is the right time for him, you know? And it felt like it was maybe the right time the last time he challenged as well, but the plot wasn't in the right place. And so this is the ideal time.
Also, they do love their rule of 3.
They do.
And that was his 3rd challenge. I think we can go up to Natural Vibes now.
Natural Vibes.
I kind of feel in general like this year in particular, Natural Vibes needs something. They need some kind of change. Because I don't feel like Strong Machine J has been very prominent lately.
Yeah.
And he's been the, quote, new leader for quite a while now. But I do think, people are always going to associate KZ with the leadership of this unit. And I don't know if they're reaching the end of their run, but I do think that either rebranding or some kind of shift would freshen things up a bit. But at the same time, I always still like hyping up the crowd with the dance, and that's one of the things that you get from the live experience that you don't get on watching them on streaming. Most of the time, they're the unit that does the gong kids and get the crowd excited, and I do think there needs to be some kind of evolution because they do feel a bit stagnant right now.
Yeah. I was hoping that Strong Machine J's leadership would be a little... something would feel a bit tangibly different. I don't know, sort of forge a new identity or like a, slightly newer identity for Natural Vibes. But it hasn't felt much like it's been under new leadership. There's not really been a new direction.
I was hoping he would bring something a little more serious to them. As much as they are like the fun-loving good time guys, it's like now we have another unit of fun-loving good time guys. They could have done something like, and I'm going to bring this back to Jimmy's again.
What a surprise.
Because when Jimmy's got serious, they brought out combat Jimmy's with the war paint, and they'd kind of lock it in and laser focus on whatever the existential threat was at the time.
Does this mean that you want to see unnatural vibes?
Oh, God, you didn't.
I did.
I think I've probably made that pun before, but in a different context.
Undoubtedly. I mean, he is a robot.
He is. Oh, I think I said something about like KZ turning heel and forming unnatural vibes.
Yep.
It is sort of the curse of Natural Vibes that KZ is so beloved and charismatic that I don't know that anyone else really can lead that unit effectively and be believable about it.
It's unfortunately the sort of Yamato curse. It's like any unit that Yamato's in ultimately becomes about Yamato.
Right. I would like to see something more from Strong Machine J, and I mean, maybe his time is coming, maybe there's an arc coming. I do know that he has had recurring trouble with his shoulder, so maybe that's the obstacle.
I mean, me too.
Well, when you're a breakdancing wrestler...
I like you say when.
The non-specific you.
You, plural.
The royal you. If you're going to be putting him in that position... Okay, so to be fair, he did do something that I had not really criticized but pointed out the last time we talked about this, which is that he did change to the open mouth mask. He's been wearing that one that's sort of like half machine, half Flamita.
Yeah.
So he is allowed to be more expressive, also just have a less muffled voice when he cuts promos.
Which he's so good at promos.
He really is, and he shows a lot of passion in his speech. At a certain point, though, you can keep talking about something, but you need to start showing results, and
yeah, you got to do it.
I don't know if the company has, like, they're not feuding with anybody directly. There's no real story behind them, so I wonder what they're actually waiting for. And I think maybe it's, at least what I'm hoping for, is that they were waiting for Flamita to drop the Dragongate so that now they can be a little more cohesive, because without him, they're down to 3. It's J, it's KZ, and it's UT. Interestingly enough, all letter names. When Strong Machine J and UT were tagging, I was calling them Team Smut.
That's very good, is the thing.
I don't know what you do with Strong Machine J now, other than maybe have him be unsatisfied with his role and turn heel, but...
Yeah, but then we've just undone the last 12, 14 months since the cage match. I think this has just been a matter of timing where the focus is on other people, and Natural Vibes has sort of needed to be Natural Vibes, be sort of dependable in that respect, because there's more mileage to get out of Jay and Kikuta, I think.
Yeah.
Especially, so I think there was also waiting for Gajadokuro to form, because unfortunately, to a degree, Natural Vibes' story with Shun and Zebrats had reached a conclusion. So going back to that well wasn't going to happen just yet. And now Gajadokuro is the thing. So I think it is a matter of timing and patience.
And I could actually see this being Strong Machine J's time if we're talking about who takes the belt off of Kikuta.
He's been on the verge. He's missed out so much just by circumstance. It's one of the things that he has so in common with UT.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure, like, if it doesn't happen now, but there's still some time to go, some time to build that up. And it's like, do you do that with Jay now whilst you will obviously have what you're building with Yuki? Because Yuki's whole ace deal, if you really want to go there, it feels like he has to take the belt off a heel.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's all a bit 4D chess, and ultimately I'm probably wrong about all of it, because that's usually what happens.
I think in the case of Yuki, he still has a lot of build left before he becomes the ace.
Oh, yeah.
And right now, I think it's a good idea to have the Twin Gate stay on Original D-Courage for a while. As much as I would like to see, like, just revisiting them for a second, I would like to see, when Yuki gets back into Dreamgate contention, Daya and Ryoya, I've said it before, they would make a crazy good Twin Gate team.
Absolutely.
I think right now Yuki's in the right position to build him back up. So I think that Strong Machine J, I don't think you would have to do that much build to get him into the position of a top contender. But it's also...
a contender, certainly.
It's also, you have to put everything in a bit of a holding pattern, because we don't have that many major events left in the year. Because they're not doing Final Gate. Gate of Destiny is going to be the 2-night smaller Edion Arena show, which, they could still do big changes there, but I don't know if they're going to. I don't know if Bayside is going to be a thing next year either, so...
True.
I think they said that the next big Fukuoka date is going to be in February, so maybe wait until then, but, who knows where everyone's going to be by then.
Yeah, you just don't know. I think the hesitancy I have there is because, yes, Yuki still has a lot more build to go, but you don't want to disempower your heels too much ahead of that. Because if you start passing the belt around, you need to be able to beat a streak, basically, for it to be impactful. But I mean, this is all pure speculation based on literally nothing.
Yeah. They already did have Shun with the V0 defense, and taking that off of Yamato's long streak. Like, I don't think that hurts Kikuta's position as champion, because that was more about him making a statement. Now, if you build Strong Machine J back up for a bit, give him some momentum, give him some more fire, I don't think that interferes with Yuki's arc right now. It is something where you could put him in that position, but I also think, at any time you can put the Triangle Gate back on Natural Vibes, and
Yeah.
I don't know, just speaking about them as a whole, I don't know if Flamita is sticking around. I know it's the end of Bendito's run, but I don't know if Flamita is also going. So, he always wants to come back, but it's a touring thing, and it's about, what his availability is and and visa issues and all that. So, and until we get Shimizu back, and then who knows where he's going to end up.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip over KZ for the moment just to talk about him for a second, because since the first round of this, we did get a little bit of news about him, at least, which was that it seemed like it was a 6-month suspension, because right at about the 6-month period is when we got some news about him, which was that he requested to have the rest of 2025 off.
Yeah.
Still don't know what's going on with that, but it seems like he's taking care of something on his own terms. I don't want to speculate what that might be.
We have literally no information.
As far as I know, it was not a legal issue, so that's about as much as I can say about it. It seems like it might be a personal issue. I don't know, how that would tie into a contract violation, but it seemed like he was going to originally come back after 6 months, and it seemed like that was the when the suspension was up. And then the rest of it is just him dealing with whatever he's dealing with. So I wouldn't say that I would want to count on him being in Natural Vibes when he comes back, but you never know where he's going to end up. That's all the information I have. Let the man deal with whatever personal issues he's dealing with. With that out of the way, I think we can pretty much say that if Flamita is going back to Mexico for a while, then Natural Vibes is down to 3 members, and they either need to recruit or they need some kind of seismic shift in the unit. Unless they want to do something like Decourage with their 3-man unit, but I don't know.
I don't think the choreography works as well with fewer people.
And it's a shame, because they really had something with the Shimizu monkey flip.
Yeah.
That's another unit where I think a unit disbands match would probably be what takes them apart.
Yeah, I've felt that for a while. That seems to be the only way you're getting rid of Natural Vibes.
What do you do with KZ now?
Well, I know what you know.
Other than the obvious of
Other
giving
than
him
the
the
obvious.
Dreamgate and for a record-breaking run.
Yeah, and just ending the company after that because you've peaked.
Yes, other than it being KZ time forever, what do you do with KZ now?
How do you solve a problem like KZ?
Our references are all over the place. I've been looking through just because I put visual representation on these podcasts when we come up with a reference, and the spectrum of screenshots that I am including in this are now going to have to include the sound of music.
Yes, this is who I am as a person.
We've got Neil Breen, we've got Bulk and Skull, we've got Peter Murphy, we've got Friedrich Nietzsche, we've got the Persona series.
Yeah, this is just like what reading my writing's like.
We've got Tunnel Snakes.
Tunnel Snakes rule.
And now we've got Julie Andrews.
We've always got Julie Andrews.
Yes, let's make a statement right now. KZ is the Julie Andrews of Dragongate.
You know what? I see it though.
Right? You see the vision?
I see the vision.
Well, so here's a sentiment that I had kind of settled on since we last did this, where I think I had mentioned that for me, Mochi is the singles goat. Mm-hmm. Doi is the tag team goat. I would say KZ is the trios goat.
I see it.
And I want to make the distinction there because the dynamics of a tag team and a trios team in Dragongate are vastly different, because you need that leadership of a trios team where one is leading the other two. And KZ has always been like that guy for me, where he's been team captain whenever there's a trios match that he's in.
Yeah.
I mean, KZ will always be one of my top guys. It took him a long time to get there because he had been the joke for a while. There was some discussion a while ago that maybe the reason they don't put the Dreamgate on him is because he spent so long as a joke that people got used to it. Like, if they fell out of the Dragongate wheelhouse and they see KZ, they'll be like, oh, they made him champion? But I think he's earned enough goodwill that enough people are clamoring for it.
Yeah. I also think that if that's the attitude that you get from people who aren't even watching, like, that, I don't think that matters.
Yeah.
It's been years. The people that matter would be like, oh, how did that happen? Let me find out. But it's the fans that are in the building right now that matter.
KZ is just sort of evergreen. It'll be a lovely surprise if they ever give him, even that like Gold Watch run. I don't know what he does after Natural Vibes if they do disband them.
That's the one thing that was kind of one of the existential threats of the cage match last year. That was really hard to see where any of it could go next. I think part of that anxiety, though, is because obviously Natural Vibes have been around for so long. I think it becomes quite easy to say this is so inextricable, there's no way that we could find something on the other side and move on. I think in a lot of ways it's human nature, but I think it is a bit unfair because of course there'll be something else that KZ can do. He's KZ.
Yeah.
He's not married to Natural Vibes forever. Whatever the next step is, it might not be as iconic, but it will still be, worthy.
And just looking back at the old footage for my cage match video, he was a really good heel. He's so beloved now, and that he's leaned into it for so long that I don't necessarily see him going back to that. But I still think he could pull it off if they needed him to.
If you really wanted a heartbreak.
Yeah, right. The only other thing is, I think if Natural Vibes disbands, you'd have to put him in Paradox. You do get Chapter 1 vibes back with Susumu.
Hey, look at us.
Will he force Susumu to dance again?
Oh, Careless Whisper.
It's just kind of a thing about, KZ is KZ. He's going to be doing his thing until
the heat death of the universe.
Yeah, I think that's where his position is now. And who knows if Vibes gets a Chapter 5. If he's taking a back seat, then I think he just does what he does. Heading into the home stretch now. UT did get his big moment since our last round of this, and there's something to be said for it being so short-lived, but it was like that peak of like Dolphins Arena's closing down. He gets his moment at Dead or Alive. He finally wins the Brave Gate. It wasn't a V0 defense. He did have the defense against Junior, and as much as I would have liked to have seen a longer Brave Gate run with him, I know why they had to put it on Ryoya, because it is Ryoya's time right now.
Strike while the iron's hot.
And the thing that I was saying at the time when he lost it is that's the thing about hyping up your first title win, is that it is your first title win. So there's going to be a certain amount of hype around it. It doesn't matter how long that run is, because now you can just get it back and it's not a big deal, and you don't have to wait for just the right moment. So UT is a guy who I can see getting it back and it not being like the huge hyped up moment, and it doesn't need to be. I think now that he's gotten over that initial hurdle that he's been chasing forever, he can get it back anytime.
I go back and forth. I think what title wins and title reigns mean are different for different people, different stories.
Sure.
And I think a lot of fans tend to approach every single title win and title reign with kind of the same philosophy. Talking to people who are so dead set on the idea that every title reign has to be as long as possible, otherwise it's not worth it.
Right.
Sometimes the win is the most important part. Sometimes the loss is the most important part, and sometimes the reign is important.
Yeah.
It really depends on the story. I would like to have seen UT hold it for longer, but the win was the most important part of that story. Right. And I hadn't really put it in the perspective that you just laid out there, but that makes total sense to me, is that the win was the most important part. The reign wasn't as important. And the loss was also important too, but he can get it back at any time now, and there's less pressure on it to be the big grand moment. after so many disappointments.
Yeah, like that's the point, kind of the point I'm making, is the
Yeah.
pressure's off now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, like people can say like, oh, well, titles aren't that important and everything, but UT is uniquely linked to the Bravegate because it is his primary career goal, and he's been saying that for like over a decade.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was the plan if Dolphins Arena wasn't closing down. But I'm glad that they finally pulled the trigger on that, and he got his big moment, and I think that would have happened at some point anyway. But now I really hope that he has proven himself enough that they can still circle back to that. And also, there's something to be said for the chase, too.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking for, like, oh, when does he get it again? It's not like the when is KZ time kind of thing with the Dreamgate. It's like you can easily slot UT into a contendership match and have him be a legitimate threat. Like it doesn't have to be a major show. He could take it back on a Korakuen.
Yeah, exactly. Again, I would have liked to have seen him have a slightly longer run, but sometimes other things are a little bit priority on that. I mean, they could have not put Yoya in contention just now, but at the same time, it's clear that we're moving D-Courage as a whole, so you wouldn't want to put Yoya on the back foot if you're... So it's like there's a lot of things to move into place.
Yeah, and they're also priming Ryoya to be something bigger.
Yeah, so in a lot of ways, there's no such thing as the perfect moment in wrestling. Mostly that tends to be accidental.
But if we're talking about perfect moments, then I think that's the rare one that we got.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't get that.
No, exactly. And like you say, it's not nothing.
Yeah. And also, if we're talking about aesthetics, he has really ramped up that this year.
Oh, he's figured it out.
His new gear is really cool looking. His new entrance robe is like all-timer, like top tier. Well, I don't see him, being like a unit leader or a Dreamgate champion at any point. He'll hold belts again. He'll be champion again. I think it's pretty likely that he becomes Bravegate champion again, but at any point you can put the Twin Gate or the Triangle Gate on him and it's going to be a very strong team.
Yeah. I mean, no one else currently on the roster does what UT does.
He is the Yave guy.
Yeah.
Like even the three guys from Mexico that they have right now are not Yave guys.
Exactly. They don't do that either.
That is one thing, like when we were talking about Rita having a shooter background, I would love to see an extended UT and Rita like Graps feud.
Oh yeah, that would bop.
Also, we'll see what Sugihara has to offer when he debuts, because like I was saying, I'm pretty sure that he's a grappler too. But nobody specifically does Yave. The other thing I would really love, and this is pure fantasy booking, is that the one guy that I would love to see come over from AEW, because I think he'd fit really well with the Dragongate style, is Angelico.
Yeah.
One of my big dream matches is Angelico versus UT.
Yeah, that would be killer.
One of the many reasons why I wish there was a stronger connection between Dragongate and a Western promotion.
Yeah, just thinking about, like, that would be the kind of match that would change the trajectory of people's lives.
Yeah.
And that sounds completely facetious, but I mean it. Like, people would be inspired by that to get into that style, because there isn't really anything that's present in that sense in at least my sphere of wrestling.
Yeah. If UT ever comes over here, I would jump at the chance to try to get him booked with one of the various grapplers that are either already in that environment or somebody I know from here, because we do have a few.
We're manifesting.
Yes, manifesting it now. And then last but certainly not least, let's talk about Flamita.
Flamita.
Always glad to see him back. It kind of doesn't seem like it because he was in and out for a while, but he has been back for a while now and stayed longer than I thought he was going to.
Yeah.
I have no news on him on whether he's going back now, but He is also one who had heel run as Demonic Flamita.
Yes.
But as a Rudo, he changed his style to be more grounded, and that's just not what I want from Flamita because he's so amazing when he's a high flyer.
It is fair enough that, again, when you sort of serve a different narrative function, you have to consider that in everything that you do. But yeah, like, if I'm opening up a Flamita match, I want to see him do Flamita stuff, you know?
There's something to be said for, it's a heel's job to deprive people of the things they want. But I think when it becomes a certain style, where if it's the entire reason I watch him, he'd better be an amazing heel if he stops doing that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's another one of those. I just don't think there's, not that we're like proposing this as a course of action, but there's no real reason to change what Flamita's doing.
Especially since he's usually there as a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Flamita is on Gate of Miyane. That's an interesting match. Flamita and Jackie versus Ryoya and Monte.
Yes, that was again, Monte in Decourage Conspiracy Theories, again.
Mm-hmm. That will have already happened by the time I get these up and finished, because editing these does take a while.
That's because we can't stop fucking talking.
Let's see. After that, I think we don't get any major named events in October, which maybe they'll announce a King of Gate.
Oh, I can only imagine the chaos that will cause in the fantasy booking zones.
That would be the next logical step, because in November we've got Gate of Destiny and the Doi Produce pay-per-view, which is not going to be on the network. That is an actual pay-per-view.
Yes, it's such a Doi move.
Which I think I will probably actually buy.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to deprive Naruki Doi of money.
The way you said that.
Not if I can help it.
Pay this man.
Yes, pay this man. Other than that, I don't know if they've announced it yet, but I think I remember seeing on the schedule that December will have double Korakuen shows. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's it for big named events. So I figured they'll either do King of Gate in October or December if they do it at all. Otherwise, maybe it'll be beginning of next year sort of thing. Some things definitely being switched up. I am glad we waited until the dust settled on a few things, but
yeah,
I am really excited to see what the rest of the year brings, both for Gajadokuro and Saipatra, if that does end up being who they are. Name. Also, seeing what Mochizuki Dojo does.
Yeah, it's a good time for the ball to get rolling on some stuff heading into the end of the year, because you need to sort of finish on something, finish on a big point and then move into the next year where you sort of make your thesis statement for what the year's going to be like.
Yeah, and I'd say that if you're listening to this and you're wondering when's a good time to get in, I would say now is actually a really great time to get in, because there's a lot of there's a lot of moving pieces that are kind of just gaining momentum and a lot of new things that are happening. So Eden, where can we find you?
I can be found on Blue Sky, Twitter, I'm still calling it that, and, I don't know, Instagram, if you're feeling editorial, at EdenX sometimes.
Mine is typically Gustoser everywhere. You can find me on Instagram at MarkIsBurning. I don't use it that much. The name for that was because I used to put my fire performance pictures on there, but I haven't done that in a while.
Oh, yeah.
And now I just use it to kind of post quirky, weird things that I see when I'm walking around. So if you want that facet of my life, knock yourself out. But yeah, I don't do much wrestling content with that.
I mostly just use my stories to recommend songs or talk about what albums I'm listening to.
Okay, so thanks for joining me for another edition of this.
Always.
Thanks once again for joining us for this round of Normal About Dragongate, and thanks to my channel members, That Guy from AK, Rob DW, Dan Williams, Art, Lowest, Adam Sanderson, One Funky Note, Lino Nwakucha, and Jay. And to my Ko-fi donors, Jolly, Haas Freeman, CSG370, Slurm316, Jason Ford, Evelyn Gallery, and an anonymous donor. I have some more ideas for standalone episodes of this series, if recording schedules line up. For the rest of 2025, I will have weekly disbanded episodes on Fridays, or usually Mondays for donors. That series is going to run until I go all the way back to Toryumon, and once I finish I might revamp some of the newer ones to add more detail. Otherwise, my next long-form video will be a retrospective of the Survival Cage match after the closing of Dolphins Arena in Nagoya, and hopefully I'll have time to put together at least released a Gate of Destiny preview, but I'll be away from my editing rig for most of October, and Gate of Destiny is the first week of November, so hopefully they'll release a full card while I'm away so I can at least get started on it. So keep an eye out for that, and I'll post any other updates on my channel. Thanks!